Welcome to the Power of Design podcast, where we have inspiring conversations that explore the intersection of architecture, construction, and real estate, so we can understand the dynamics and trends that shape an exciting and powerful built environment. This is your host, Jack Osa. In today's episode of The Power of Design, I have a very special guest. Her name is Carolina Aponte. Born and raised in Venezuela, at a young age, Carolina migrated to the United States and quickly realized that she was driven and equipped to make her dreams a reality using her curiosity and determination. Carolina is an entrepreneur, CEO of Caja Holdings, a financial services firm providing bookkeeping and fractional CFO services to small and large multimillion-dollar companies. I felt very identified by her immigrant story and found many similarities about how we overcame obstacles to go from zero to business owners. Please let me know what you think about this episode. And remember to always pursue your full potential through the power of design. Carolina, welcome to the Power of Design podcast. How are you today?
Doing great.
Carolina, you are a successful business owner, author, speaker, and have recently been recognized as the 2021 Businesswoman of the Year by the National Association of Women Business Owners in Charlotte, North Carolina. What would you say is the most important skill a person should have in order to pursue their dreams and live their life at their full potential?
Well, first of all, wow, isn't that great?
I know.
Business Owner of the Year. I would say the number one skill is having a growth mindset. Everything else falls in line.
What does that mean?
It means you have to believe in the goals that you set for yourself, and that even if you're going to have obstacles or challenges, you are going to overcome them because you are focused on the growth.
Yeah.
And not on the negative.
Why do you think people don't have a growth mindset in general?
I think society puts you in that spot. Especially we live in a country where the educational system tells you have to do A, B, C, and you have to do them in that same order in order to get to be in corporate America, in order to have this career path. You have to follow the line. But that's not true for everyone.
Right.
And so but because it's not true for everyone, then you get into this mindset that I'm not able to achieve that dream. I'm not able to get to the top because I haven't done A, B, C.
Right. And sometimes it's like when we think that, that's just the way I am and that's how I think understanding that you can become something else. And we never see that model. Nobody shows you how you do that. And part of that growth is just, keep going to places that you keep evolving. I always say that I don't want to be today the same person I was, yesterday or a month ago or a year ago. It's okay to change your mind if you're improving.
Yeah, and as long as you figure out what is it that drives you, what motivates you, what do you like doing? Because oftentimes people just don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And so, well, my mom did this, so I'm supposed to do this, or my dad had this company, so I'm supposed to do that. But you don't know for yourself, what is it that really, excites you to get in the morning, right? So I discover what I get excited about early on.
Yeah.
And that made a whole difference in my life.
Nice. So tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up?
So I'm from Venezuela, but I grew up in the Isla Margarita. It's a beautiful island off the Caribbean Sea. But I came to the United States around the age of 13, the first go around.
Okay.
And that's when I learned English and went to high school. And then I had to go back to my country.
Wow. How did you feel when you went back?
Awful. Now, don't get me wrong. It was great being back in my country because it's beautiful and family and, my culture. But I just knew that that was not where my future
Yeah.
was going to be.
Yeah.
I just knew it. And so it was that conflict of, feelings, right? And
Right.
emotions.
Yeah.
Especially when you're 16.
Mm-hmm.
I was leaving my boyfriend behind.
Yeah.
And all, so I was like, but I want to be there. But I also want to see my family.
So how long did it take for you to get to the point that you came back to the States?
So it took me almost 4 years. The second time around, I was 20 years old when I finally had sort of the things in place for me to make the transition and come to the United States on my own without my family.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even finished high school. But I just knew that this is where I was going to be able to do my future.
Yeah.
And I made it happen.
So did you come to Charlotte or
No,
where were you?
no. I went to Miami, Florida.
Okay.
That's kind of like the capital of Latin America,
That's
right?
That's the easy bridge
Yes.
to come here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you went to school there?
So I did. So, well, first went to work.
Yeah.
I was an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunities, and we're talking about, almost 30 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had the fortune to go work for a law firm as a receptionist because I was bilingual.
Right.
So even though I didn't have a high school degree and I didn't have any other skills, I had that one skill.
Nice.
Which was being bilingual.
Yeah.
That got me into the professional environment.
That's awesome. What kind of things did you have to do at that firm? Yeah,
at that firm?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Wait for the phone to ring.
Yeah.
Which was not my thing. And obviously I would do translations and I would help the secretaries at the time. And they used to, there was not real computers. It was word processors.
Mm-hmm.
So learning to do that to help out in the office. But then I found myself that I had a lot of free time waiting. And I'm an impatient person. I have a lot of energy. And so I asked the office manager, is there anything I can help you with? And she's like, you know what? I have this bookkeeping that I have to do. And the numbers are not adding up. And I can't figure out what's wrong with it. And she gave me the ledger.
Mm-hmm.
I reconciled. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I just knew from that moment, it felt so satisfying that I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
that
what
was
I wanna
probably
do.
natural to you.
Mm-hmm.
It might be, you probably hit a point where the task matched your natural abilities, your unique abilities. So for you, it was not only fun, but, easy to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, and then from that point, I was like, okay, so what else can I do to do more of this kind of work?
Yeah.
And make more money? Because obviously I was entry-level position.
Yeah.
And so that's where, I was like, I have to go get a GED. I have to go to college. I have to do all of these things so that I can get into better positions within the accounting industry.
That's awesome. So where did you go to school?
So I ended up graduating from Nova Southeastern University, which is right outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
In Florida. And it was challenging because I was working full time and going to school at night. It was the only university at the time that had that kind of career path for adults to be able to have a college degree without going the traditional route.
Yes. How do you feel during that school setting? Do you feel that you were very different than any other, or your peers, or they were all
yes,
very
100%.
similar situation?
I was very different. I've always been very different. Period. But I was different because I had life experience. And I had done the jobs that they were teaching us, sales, marketing, and all of these things that you learn in school. I had already done a lot of those jobs, and so I had this experience that allowed me to help the other students. And so they would like come over to me and say, can we do the project together? Can you help us out? So I kind of started helping everybody in my class.
Yeah.
And then I also discovered that I love training and teaching
Nice.
others.
So numbers and training.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, and once you graduated, what was your first job?
Well, now remember, the first job came
Yeah.
before graduating.
Right.
And I was going to university while I was working for a software company that developed accounting software for law firms. So I was already in the industry. I was already sort of exercising the career.
Yeah.
I just needed to have that piece of paper as a
Alright.
validation
Yes.
of what I was doing.
Yeah, I had a similar path because I went to architecture school in Colombia, and when I came here, my degree was not valid. And I was what? Not an architect here, but an architect down there. Like this doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I didn't like that. And honestly, if you work for a like a large company, you don't really need to be a licensed architect because somebody else will sign and seal the drawing. So it's not a prerequisite. But to me, it was a big deal because it's part of my identity. I'm an architect, and I
Right.
could not call myself an architect here. And I started from zero, and I did the whole thing. It took me like maybe 8 years to get to the point to take the test and become a licensed architect, and finally, was able to say, yeah, I'm a licensed architect. This is my signature.
Here and
Yeah,
there.
That's right. Yeah, it meant so much to me to just be legit,
Right.
100%.
Right.
Not
And-
just trying.
Right. And I think that was the main reason for me to really get the degree was I'm already doing it,
Yeah.
but if anything happens, I've got my little paper that says I did it.
That's right. Okay, and how about your next chapter?
Well, the next chapter came while working at this company. I got pregnant with my first child, and I was already in my early 30s and had sort of a different vision of what I would wanted my family to look, be like, and the time that I wanted to spend. And there was that conflict of so many more hours working in what I was doing than the time that I could spend with my new family.
Yeah.
And so in one of my travels, I went to train a law firm in a small town, Pennsylvania, somewhere. And the first thing they said to me was like, you're going to train us this week, but can you make sure we finish like around 4:00 because we got things to do. And that was like, wow. They don't work until 6, 7,
Yeah.
8 o'clock at night. They got things to do.
Yeah.
And it just surprised me because I was coming from a city where it's a hustle and bustle of
Right.
Miami, right? I was like, oh, that's what I want.
Yes.
I want to leave at 4 and be with my family.
Right.
And so went back to my house, spoke to my husband at the time and said, we're moving. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we're moving to a small town. No, don't know which one, but we're moving. That led us to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's amazing how, United States is so big and depending on where you are, it's a whole different lifestyle.
Totally.
A whole different attitude, culture. And I've been in Charlotte for 20 years. And, every time I go somewhere else in 3 or 4 days, I'm like, oh my God, I know why I love Charlotte.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving. It's so nice. You see like new things and it's exciting. But I think what we have here, it's pretty nice. And a lot of people are realizing, because you know how many people are moving here every day from different states?
Well, and I think part of it is, even though it's a growing city, it still has that small town feel.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter which part of the city you're in, you still don't feel like you're in this, mega city. And
Yeah.
so I think that is attracting a lot of people.
Yeah. So you moved to Charlotte with your family, and what happened?
Took time to spend with my family. So I actually took sort of a year off work to be able to spend it with my child before she started school. And then I got bored. And I was like, I got to go back to work. And so I found a job in accounting, managing accounting, and didn't work out. So I moved on to another company. And this company actually had multiple locations. It was a growing business, family business. And they hired me to reorganize their accounting department and train the people to use systems because I have a software background.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and did that. Did so well that they fired me.
They didn't need you anymore.
They didn't need me anymore. Yeah. They're like, okay, thanks. You can go now. And that was a shock. Because I had never been fired before, and
yes.
It was the economy wasn't great. This was in the early the 2009 when it happened. I was like, what do I do now? And went job hunting and was called by a recruiter. I go to the interview, and this recruiter who had called me for the interview looks again at my resume and then looks at me, and he's like, but you don't have Fortune 500 corporate experience. And I'm like, but like accounting is debits and credits.
Yes.
Like it don't matter. And he's like, yeah, but we don't really have a job for you right now. And it just like dawned on me that this person who had called me for the interview, he saw me in person, and I didn't represent what he was looking for.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
That's right.
And it was another shock, right? And I left. I said, thank you for the opportunity. I left, sat in my car for a minute, thought about it, called my then husband and said, this is not going to work out. And he's like, you know what? You've been talking about doing your own thing. Maybe this is the sign.
Yeah.
And here I am, an entrepreneur 10 years later.
Wow. So how had that? Tell me about that ride, 10 years.
Well, it's been amazing. It's been an incredible opportunity that I seized on. I took the knowledge not just of accounting, but of systems to create a company that provides bookkeeping support for small business owners on a virtual basis. So I was ahead of COVID.
Yeah.
It came and I was like, it's okay, we got this covered.
That's right.
And we started providing systems and processes and helping business owners develop their own financial, reporting and understanding so they could make better decisions. And everything, just started evolving one thing after another. And I had the opportunity to participate in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which helps business owners create a growth opportunity.
Yeah.
And now my company offers fractional CFO services.
Wow, that's amazing. How did you find your first clients?
Networking. I went to a networking event with the Latin American Chamber of Commerce, and I was introduced to the person who was going to take over being the director of the chamber. And it turns out that she was from Venezuela. And we started talking, and we had some things in common. And I said, I'm starting the business. I don't have any clients. I don't know anybody because I've been working for somebody else. I don't know how to get. And she's like, oh, I'll introduce you to people. And sure enough, I started participating in networking events, and she introduced me to somebody, and somebody introduced me to somebody else. And, sure enough, I had clients.
That's amazing. So tell me about your business today. What kind of clients do you work with? Services?
So we have a variety, We don't specialize in one industry because I don't like that being cornered into we only work with X. We work with anybody who wants to improve their business and who wants to grow their business, and they might be on a plateau. So we have customers in, manufacturing, in the food industry, not restaurants, but like online. We have clients in the consulting business, in the health industry. There's a big sort of array of industries we work with, but the main thing they have in common is that they want to grow their business.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest weakness business owners have when it comes to accounting?
Their biggest weakness is not using the accounting as a tool to make decisions.
I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, I know a lot of friends who have the same question. It's like, oh no, I worry about it at tax time. And that's the biggest issue that small business owners face when it comes to accounting. Accounting is not just for taxes. Accounting really, truly is to help you see the real story of your business. How profitable are you really? Or why are you doing 10 things when you should just do 2 that make you money?
Yeah.
You don't have to sell 100 items. You can concentrate on the things that make you money. So there's a lot that you learn. I always say numbers don't lie. They tell you a story, but small business owners don't want to see it.
Yeah.
They don't want to face the reality.
Right.
That they're the ones not helping themselves grow their business, because we tell ourselves, well, I don't need to pay for that. Well, I can do that later. I have to work with this client right now. So this is where all my energy is going to go.
Yeah.
And so accounting takes a back, spot. And then they're faced with, I don't know how to pay all those taxes. Well, you could have planned ahead if you had done these things in order. Or I don't know if I can afford to hire somebody. Well, if you had your numbers, you would be able to determine if you can afford it or not, or how much can you afford, right? So there's a lot of decisions that as business owners we have to make on a day-to-day basis that if we knew the truth, we were so much empowered to make the right decision.
Yeah, it gives you clarity and confidence.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because numbers are the language of business. That's, regardless of the industry, or if you're selling products or services, is the numbers. But sometimes when we start businesses, it's because we know we're good at certain craft and we love the craft. And we get so focused on that craft that we forget that now we're playing a different game.
Exactly.
It's a whole different thing. Yeah, I'm going exactly through that transition in my business. I've been focusing on the craft, and now I'm realizing, that story that I see in every, basic accounting or finances book you read, where you see all this money coming in, and then you're like, where is the money? Yeah, I'm like, I knew this money passed through my business somehow.
But it's not here.
Yeah, where is it? And not knowing that was making me crazy. And like, how did this happen? And it's not that I'm, spending money like crazy. I'm trying to be very responsible. It's just, if you don't pay attention, it just starts slipping away slowly and you don't see it.
Well, and not only that, it slips away, but there's a difference between the cash flow, which is the money that goes into your bank, and the net income of a business. They're not one and the same, and business owners tend to look at them as if they were the same. Just because it shows that you netted $50,000 doesn't mean there's $50,000 in your bank account.
Yeah.
Because you may have loans, you may have, other commitments that are, you've acquired some assets. They're not showing up in your bank account, but you have them and you've spent the money. And so that's where I get the joy of teaching business owners to understand the two main reports in the financial world, which is, you know, the balance sheet and the P&L.
Yes.
Like, so they can see how they connect with each other and where the money really is.
We'll be right back with more from the Power of Design podcast.
The Power of Design podcast is brought to you by OSA Studio, a multidisciplinary design firm focused on creating impactful experiences through the power of design. We partner with our clients to create buildings, interior spaces, brands, and strategies that help you deliver a successful project. As a minority-owned firm, we are committed to building a diverse platform of curious and driven design professionals so we can together pursue our full potential. For more information, please visit us at www.osastudio.com.
Tell me about your book. I know you just wrote a book, which is one of my goals. I'll do that one day, but I'd love to know about your motivation. What was it like to go through the process, and, you know, tell me about the book.
Yes, it's certainly something I'm very proud of. It's called Pave Your Own Way, 13 Skills to Create Your Own Success.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it for a number of reasons. One, I wanted to leave a legacy. And what better way than to put it in writing?
Yeah.
Right? Two, I kept getting affirmation after affirmation of people wanting to know more about my story and how I have made it this far with the limited resources that I started with.
Right.
I told you I had no high school. I was 20 years old. I came, because my instinct told me that this is where I needed to be. And so I decided to share, not as a biography, but share stories of different stages of my life and connect them to the skill sets that you need in order to be successful.
Yeah.
So for example, leadership. I thought, we are all leaders, whether it's in business or in our house.
Sure.
All right. But we don't see ourselves through that glass.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to share how, as a child, I was already a leader and, give a story of how that came about and then how I learned to develop and become a true leader in my community. I'm president of a national organization that has a local chapter. How do you get there? Yeah. You develop the skill and you set your growth mindset to get there.
Sure. How was the process to do it? Because I think that, you always say, oh, I want to write a book, but okay, how?
Not easy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not easy, especially, English is my second language, just as it is yours. Mm-hmm. So that was one of those challenges where I felt I was not equipped to write a book in English and sound like an expert on something when it's not my first language. But what I learned is that you should seek professional help. Just
Sure.
like I tell my clients, you need professional help from me.
Right.
I went and I looked for a professional who deals with book publications, and they walked me through the process, and then they coached me and gave me sort of the tools that I needed to really sit and do the writing. So I did the writing. They edited and made it look much nicer.
Sure.
But it's all my story.
Wow.
And the process, it's also very revealing to oneself because you have to go through your memory bank and recall events and situations that you put away, you stored. And then you realize, gosh, I have done quite a bit.
Yeah. That's awesome. Part of the things that sometimes I realize that I don't do very well is I'm so focused in the future and the next thing that I forget to celebrate my successes, what I've done in the past, I tend to ignore that and kind of focusing on that gap to go to the next level. And that's dangerous because that place, there is not a lot of motivation there because it's empty. You're just looking at what you don't have and what you haven't achieved yet.
Right.
So it's always like trying to get there, but it's one of those things I'm trying to change and improve about myself is to, celebrate the past and, what I've done, because you prove to yourself that you could do things that you never thought you could have achieved before.
Yeah, absolutely. And the process of writing something that has to do with your past is very enlightening, because you do learn things about yourself that you didn't realize you had the capacity, or that you are successful.
Yeah.
Right? You look at all the things you've done, and how many people can say they've done those things.
Sure.
That's something to celebrate and feel proud of.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about the future of your business and yourself. How do you see, yourself and your business in 5-10 years?
Woo! I see my business continuing to evolve into the consulting and the fractional CFO, because I do think that that's where our strength is. Train other professionals to be fractional CFOs.
Yep.
So part of the future is in training, and part of the future is also in speaking and inspiring young professionals into following their dreams. And it's not just about getting a degree, but how do you make a career, whether it's as an entrepreneur or because you work for for a corporation or whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah. What advice will you give to a young professional who, they have all these dreams and they have talent, but they haven't really taken any step and they're scared and they think, no, I should probably accept this low-paying job? What advice will you give them?
I would say do the low-paying job as an experience.
Yeah.
It's important to have experience and to have the struggles. You can't, it's nice to think that at 20 you can just jump and become a millionaire. No troubles, no hassle. But the reality is that you do need to have experience and to be able to recognize opportunity, to be able to recognize what works and what doesn't work. If you don't have experience, how do you know?
Sure.
And so I would say take the jobs, but not as that's the end of the road, but that is a stepping stone to the next one and to the next one. That's what's going to get you, to your ultimate goal.
Yeah. What do you think from your upbringing, your family history, your parents? What do you think you learn, and what are the things that help you get to where you are today that are so deep in your roots?
A couple of things. Resilience. Don't give up. You're going to have struggles. You're going to lose money. You're going to, lose a loved one. Those things are going to happen because that's life. But don't give up. And my parents showed me that. They came from nothing. They built a business. They lost the business. They kept trying and never gave up. And the other thing is, if you truly want to grow, you got to be willing to change yourself. It doesn't happen any other way.
Yeah. It doesn't happen by accident.
No. If you don't like how things are right now, you have the power to change them.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard the other day that success is rented. You don't buy it, and the rent is due every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yes,
you have to
absolutely.
do it every day.
Every day. Yeah. Just because, you're a business owner and you have some level of, financial comfort, to call it something, doesn't mean you are a success. Well, you have success, but you got to continue. What's the next thing? Yeah. Right? Like you asked before, what's next? What's 5 years, 10 years from now? Well, I see myself doing many things, and those will be successes.
Sure. What do you think from your culture? Because we're not born here. We don't have the same traditions. Why do you think, or do you think that was an advantage?
Oh, 100%. 100%, because knowing that you were not born here and you had to work towards getting, your immigration status to be legal and all of that good stuff, knowing that the language is not your first language and you have the challenge of having, an accent and not being able to sound.
What accent? What are you talking
Well,
about?
I don't know what you're talking about. Because the first time I talked to you, I said, I think you're from Colombia. But having those sort of considered deficits makes you work harder.
That's right.
Makes you be more focused and say, you know what, I belong. I have, I have things that I can bring to the table. So I do think that being an immigrant is an advantage in a lot of cases, because we don't feel that we're entitled to it. We work to earn it.
Wow, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, because you feel that you need to prove yourself, and you need to prove society that you're worth being there, and especially in a place like Charlotte that I've been here since I came 20 years ago, and I have always been very welcome, appreciated. Everybody has always been extremely nice to me. The culture so embracing and giving me opportunities that I feel like, oh my God, I need to give even more than what I have received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's one of the reasons why I also decided to be part of an organization other than my business and contribute to the community. Yeah. So that it's not just about me and mine, but also this is where I live. So I want to be, a contributor to our society. So I do a lot of volunteers. I'm on, a couple of boards of nonprofit organizations that have missions that align with mine. It's the right thing to do.
Sure. Yeah, that's amazing, because we're living today, as first generation immigrants, what people had lived through, hundreds of years before to build this country to what it is today.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I have children that have been born in this country, and we're setting up an example of what hard work is, and what ethics means, which is you're not entitled to anything.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I try to do that with my kids, because I see how they're growing, which a lot of things I didn't have. And they think that's normal. They think they deserve it. And I try to always give them a different angle from, where I come from, how did we get here, why, and give them tools so they can take it to the next level. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Carolina, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really energized and inspired by your story, and I look forward to continuing being in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation, and I hope that your viewers and your listeners get something out of it.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Design podcast. Remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Find out more about Jack and Osa Studio at osastudio.com, and follow us on Instagram at The Power of Design Podcast. Thank you.